Sedona, Arizona, a name that whispered promises of serene landscapes and vibrant sunsets. That's why we packed up the RV, seeking a tranquil escape from the hustle of everyday life. Retirement had gifted us the luxury of leisurely journeys, and Sedona seemed like the perfect spot. As we rolled into town, the red rocks welcomed us with their majestic embrace. We found an RV park that promised tranquility, but the brochure lied. The place was a nest of shadows, an embodiment of our worst nightmares. Our first inkling that something was amiss came when we set up camp. Unwelcoming stares from other RV residents greeted us, like a pack of wolves eyeing the newcomers. The air was thick with tension, and the residents' whispers lingered on the fringes of our conversations. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with hues of amber, we gathered in the communal area. That's when we saw it, a dark underbelly beneath the veneer of normalcy. A group of residents, self-appointed enforcers, seemed to dictate the park's rules with an iron fist. It started with passive-aggressive comments, remarks about our choice of parking spot or the volume of our laughter. Soon, these microaggressions escalated into something far more sinister. The enforcers, a motley crew with hardened faces, reveled in intimidation. One night, as we strolled to the community center, we were ambushed by this group of rogue residents. Shadows concealed their faces, but their voices dripped with malice. They warned us to comply with their unspoken rules or face consequences. Fear clawed at our hearts as we retreated to the safety of our RV. The intimidation intensified. Our belongings were tampered with, subtle threats etched on notes slipped under our door. It felt like a descent into madness, a nightmare unfolding under the guise of a peaceful RV getaway. One day, we dared to confront the enforcers, demanding an end to the torment. The reply was swift and brutal. They cornered us, their faces distorted by anger, their threats turning physical. We were trapped in a maze of aggression, our pleas drowned by the sinister symphony of their laughter. With each passing day, the RV park transformed into a realm of nightmares. We became prisoners of our own vacation, victims of a torment orchestrated by those who had claimed this patch of land as their twisted kingdom. In desperation, we decided to cut our losses and flee the park, leaving Sedona's red rocks stained with the memory of our harrowing encounter. The RV roared to life, tires screeching as we left the corrupt enclave behind. Sedona, once a haven, now held a different resonance. The sunsets, once a tapestry of warm colors, became a reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the beauty. We escaped, but the shadows of that RV park trailed us, an indelible mark on our retired dreams. The mountains stretched before me, towering guardians of solitude. I had sought escape from the monotony of life, deciding to embrace the rugged isolation of the Rockies in my RV. Little did I know, my quest for tranquility would become a descent into a nightmare. The initial days were peaceful. I parked my RV in a quiet spot, surrounded by nature's majesty. The mountains whispered stories of solitude, and I reveled in the silence. However, my peace was an illusion, shattered when I stumbled upon a group of survivalists who had carved their niche in this wilderness. They mistook me for an intruder, an unwelcome visitor encroaching upon their sanctuary. Paranoia gripped their hearts, and I became an unwitting target in their survivalist game. The first sign of trouble was subtle, distant eyes watching from the shadows. I dismissed it as wildlife curiosity, blissfully unaware of the human predators closing in. Nights turned restless, an unseen presence haunted the edges of my solitude. Then came the confrontations, hushed voices carried by the mountain breeze. Shadows moved in tandem with my RV, orchestrating a sinister dance that tightened the grip of fear around my heart. I was an intruder in their fortress of paranoia. My attempts to communicate were met with silence. They were collective, fueled by mistrust, and my presence had triggered their survival instincts. The mountains, once a sanctuary, now echoed with the footsteps of those who considered me a threat. As dusk settled one evening, the air thickened with tension. Shadows converged on my RV, faces masked by darkness. A cacophony of whispers surrounded me, indistinct threats veiled in the rustling leaves. Panic coursed through my veins, a primal instinct urging me to flee, but there was no escape. The first confrontation was abrupt, a clash of survivalist ideals against my quest for solitude. Their faces, etched with suspicion, painted a canvas of menace. They accused me of disrupting their way of life, viewing me as an intruder in the very nature that had drawn me. The night turned into a battlefield of survivalists and an unwitting wanderer. Harsh whispers became menacing growls, and I found myself caught in a storm of paranoia, the mountains witnessing a clash of ideologies. Their attacks were relentless, a nightmarish symphony of aggression. Shadows flitted through the trees, unseen assailants launching silent assaults. Fear, once a distant companion, now clung to my every step. In the chaos, I realized the mountains harbored more than solitude. They sheltered a collective paranoia that had twisted the tranquility into a labyrinth of peril. My RV, once a symbol of escape, became a metal cocoon trapping me in a nightmarish reality. With dawn, the attacks ceased. I seized the opportunity to escape the mountains that had turned from solace to entrapment. As I navigated through winding roads, I left behind the survivalists, their paranoia dissipating in the morning light. Yosemite National Park, a haven of majestic landscapes, where nature's grandeur sprawled in every direction. Eager for solitude, I embarked on a solo RV journey, seeking solace amidst the towering trees and vast valleys. Days passed, and the beauty of Yosemite unfolded before me. Yet, beneath the breathtaking scenery, a subtle unease settled. I brushed it off as the natural apprehension of a lone traveler in the wilderness. Little did I know, it was a prelude to a nightmare. The first inkling of the impending horror manifested in fleeting glimpses, shadows that lingered on the periphery of my vision. Every turn I took, every trail I ventured on, those shadows persisted, a silent companion that refused to fade. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the shadows gained substance. A silhouette, indistinct yet unmistakably human, haunted my steps. Anxiety gnawed at my senses, amplifying the rustling leaves into ominous whispers. Nightfall plunged Yosemite into a different realm. The RV, once a cocoon of comfort, transformed into a vessel of trepidation. Every creak and groan of the forest became a symphony of fear, punctuated by the persistent footsteps of an unseen pursuer. The isolation that had initially beckoned me now suffocated. Alone in the darkened expanse, I became prey to an unknown predator. Panic simmered beneath the surface as I navigated the park's winding roads, the headlights casting shadows that danced in unsettling patterns. My mind, clouded by dread, conjured scenarios of sinister intentions. Why was someone following me? What did they want? The answers remained elusive, hidden in the depths of the Yosemite night. Desperation set in as I tried to outmaneuver my unseen stalker. The vastness of the park, once a source of wonder, now became a labyrinth where every twist and turn echoed with the footsteps of an impending menace. Fear, a palpable entity, clung to me like the shadows that dogged my every move. The moon above, once a gentle companion, now illuminated the darkness with an eerie glow, casting long, haunting shadows that mimicked the pursuit. Loneliness transformed into a chilling realization: I was not alone. The stalker, a phantom in the night, held me captive in a waking nightmare. Every rustle in the bushes, every distant howl of a coyote, fueled my paranoia. The RV, my refuge turned prison, offered no respite. Sleep became an elusive companion, the night stretching endlessly as I grappled with the uncertainty of my pursuer's motives. Morning brought no relief. The daylight, instead of dispelling my fears, intensified them. What was once beautiful now harbored an unknown menace, turning Yosemite into a battlefield of survival. My pleas for help, echoing through the vastness, remained unanswered. Yosemite's beauty, once a magnet for seekers of serenity, now concealed a horror that defied the park's idyllic facade. Driven by instinct, I decided to leave Yosemite, hoping that distance would sever the invisible tether connecting me to my relentless pursuer. The Outer Banks, a stretch of serene beauty along North Carolina's coast, seemed like the perfect spot for a quiet getaway. My partner and I, eager for a break from the daily grind, decided to set up camp in our trusty RV on a secluded beach, hoping for nothing more than the soothing sound of waves. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, we reveled in the simplicity of our surroundings. Little did we know, tranquility was a fleeting companion. Our RV became a sanctuary on wheels, the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore the lullaby that serenaded our nights. The beach, seemingly deserted during the day, hinted at a different reality beneath the surface. It started innocently enough. A distant flicker of light, barely discernible against the dark canvas of the night. Curiosity mingled with caution as we observed from our vantage point, hidden in the shadows of our RV. The flicker grew into a blaze, illuminating a group of individuals huddled together. Shadows danced around a bonfire, and the air was thick with an unsettling energy. We soon realized we were mere spectators to an illicit gathering, a clandestine rendezvous unfolding just yards from our refuge. Fear, like a dormant ember, ignited within us. We were accidental witnesses to something dangerous, something that should have remained hidden beneath the guise of the night. Paralyzed by the fear of discovery, we debated our next move in hushed whispers. Our attempts to remain inconspicuous faltered when the wind betrayed our presence, carrying the scent of our fear to the illicit gathering. As the eyes of the group turned towards us, a shiver ran down our spines. We were no longer observers. We were intruders in a clandestine affair. Panicked whispers and hurried footsteps approached. Shadows materialized into figures, their faces obscured by the darkness. We felt the weight of their gaze, eyes that bore into us, dissecting our innocence. With every passing second, the situation escalated. What began as a quiet night on the beach transformed into a chilling ordeal. Adrenaline surged through our veins as we grappled with the realization that our escape was barred by the ocean on one side and the ominous figures closing in from the other. Desperation fueled our attempts to flee. The RV, once a haven, became a vessel hurtling through the dark, the roar of the engine barely drowning out the echoes of our pounding hearts. The beach, once a refuge, now seemed endless, an inescapable trap. The pursuers, undeterred by the revving engine, remained relentless. Their motives were shrouded in mystery, and our only certainty was that escape was imperative. The sea whispered a cacophony of terror, waves crashing like a harbinger of our impending doom. As the RV sped along the desolate beach, a chilling realization settled in. We were at the mercy of unseen forces, chasing an escape that remained elusive. The pursuit, a symphony of fear, played out under the moon's indifferent gaze. The hours blurred into a nightmarish tapestry of uncertainty. The distant glow of civilization flickered on the horizon, a beacon of hope that seemed both unreachable and mocking. The RV, our cocoon turned prison, became a battleground where the boundaries of sanity were tested. Morning offered no solace. The beach, once our sanctuary, held no traces of the ominous figures. Had it all been a figment of our imagination? Or were we granted a reprieve, a brief respite before another night descended? Big Sur, California, the place promised a photographer like me a canvas of breathtaking landscapes. I was eager to capture the essence of its rugged beauty. Armed with my camera, I embarked on this solo journey, envisioning the perfect shots that would grace my portfolio. I set up camp near the cliffs, hoping to catch the sunrise painting the ocean in hues that only nature could conjure. The first day went as planned, with the sun casting its golden glow over the rugged cliffs. The second day, I ventured deeper, my lens focused on the raw beauty of the forested hills and the majestic coastline. The more remote the location, the better the shot, or so I thought. That evening, as the sun began its descent, I noticed an RV parked in a secluded area. It seemed out of place in this pristine wilderness. My curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate, thinking it might add an interesting twist to my visual story. Approaching cautiously, I noticed a low hum emanating from the RV. I crept closer, staying hidden in the shadows. As I got near, muffled voices reached my ears. My heart raced, and my instincts urged me to retreat, but the journalist in me insisted on discovering the story behind this unexpected find. Peering through a partially open window, I witnessed a scene that sent shivers down my spine. A group of individuals huddled inside, surrounded by maps, equipment, and stacks of cash. The air reeked of tension and whispered conspiracies. I strained to hear their conversation. They spoke in hushed tones about illegal activities, covert operations, and plans that involved exploiting the remoteness of Big Sur for their sinister deeds. My mind raced, realizing the gravity of my accidental discovery. Panic set in as I weighed my options, report them to the authorities or slip away unnoticed. As I contemplated, one of them, a burly figure, emerged from the RV. His eyes scanned the surroundings, and for a moment, I was convinced he had detected my presence. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I crouched, praying to remain unseen. My heart thudded in my chest, drowning out the sounds of the forest. The man lingered, casting an uneasy gaze over the area, his suspicion palpable. I held my breath, seconds stretching like eternity. Finally, he retreated back into the RV, and I seized the opportunity to vanish into the shadows. Fear gripped me as I stumbled through the dense foliage, guided only by the moonlight. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent shivers down my spine. The forest, once a sanctuary, became a labyrinth of dread. Hours passed, and exhaustion gnawed at me, but I dared not stop. I had unwittingly stumbled upon something far more dangerous than I could handle. My only goal was to put as much distance between myself and that RV. Eventually, I emerged from the trees, finding the safety of my campsite. The RV was now a distant memory, but the terror it had unleashed lingered. I packed my gear in haste, abandoning the picturesque landscapes I had come to capture. Driving away from Big Sur, I couldn't shake the feeling of being pursued, haunted by the possibility that the criminals might discover my intrusion. Every passing shadow, every distant sound, fueled my paranoia. I didn't report my discovery. Fear silenced me, convincing me that involving the authorities would only expose me to greater danger. I vowed never to revisit that dark chapter, burying it in the recesses of my mind. We was up in Moab, Utah on a family camping trip with our RV. The stunning red rock formations and expansive landscapes promised serenity, a respite from the chaos of everyday life. Little did we know, the tranquility we sought would transform into a nightmare that haunted our every step. As we parked our RV in a seemingly quiet spot, oblivious to the shadows that lurked nearby, the day unfolded like a postcard: laughter, exploration, and the warmth of familial bonds. The evening sun cast a golden hue upon the landscape, a deceptive calm before the storm. Night descended, and the quietude was disrupted by an unspoken tension in the air. The rustling leaves and the distant howl of the wind seemed to whisper warnings that we, in our naivety, failed to decipher. A flicker of unease settled in when we noticed shadows moving in the periphery, figures cloaked in darkness. Unbeknownst to us, we had parked near a group of individuals entangled in illicit activities, their presence concealed by the vastness of the desert. As the last rays of sunlight faded, the atmosphere morphed into a canvas of dread. Our RV, once a symbol of familial unity, now felt like a fragile cocoon surrounded by impending danger. The night held secrets we were yet to unravel. The whispers of the wind became indistinguishable from the murmurings of the ominous figures surrounding us. The darkness outside our windows became a foreboding abyss, each sound magnified by our heightened senses. We huddled together, the illusion of safety within the RV shattered by the reality of our vulnerable position. The children, oblivious to the looming threat, slept peacefully, unaware of the shadows closing in on our refuge. The night wore on, the silence punctuated by the distant shuffle of footsteps and muffled conversations. Fear gnawed at us, an insidious force that gripped our hearts, rendering even the slightest creak of the RV a cause for trepidation. As we peered through the blinds, we witnessed a clandestine meeting unfolding in the desert. The figures, faceless in the dark, exchanged glances that spoke of malice. We were unwitting spectators to a dangerous play, a plot that seemed to thicken with each passing moment. The realization that we were caught in the crossfire of something beyond our comprehension settled in like an unshakable chill. The vastness of the desert, once an inviting expanse, now felt like an inescapable labyrinth, trapping us in a perilous game. Our attempts to remain inconspicuous were futile as the hostile figures turned their attention towards our RV. The air, thick with menace, clung to our skin as we contemplated the best course of action. Escape seemed impossible, the night closing in on us like a suffocating shroud. A knock on the RV door shattered the fragile sanctuary we had desperately clung to. The muffled voices outside, demanding entry, sent shockwaves through our already frayed nerves. Panic set in as we weighed the options, confront the unknown or succumb to the imminent threat. As the door creaked open, we were met with the piercing gaze of the figures we had unwittingly antagonized. Their intentions remained veiled, yet the malevolence in their eyes spoke volumes. We were ensnared in a web of danger, the desert night bearing witness to our descent into a waking nightmare. What unfolded in the ensuing hours blurred the line between reality and terror. The RV, once a symbol of familial joy, became a battleground where survival outweighed all else. The desert, bathed in moonlight, bore witness to a struggle that transcended the boundaries of our comprehension. Morning, when it finally arrived, painted the desert in hues of despair. The figures, now vanished like phantoms, left behind traces of a night that would forever haunt our memories. Moab, once a haven, had become a graveyard of innocence, a place where the echoes of danger lingered long after the shadows dispersed. Our family, forever changed by that fateful night, left Moab with a weight we carried like a burden. I was cruising along the winding roads, the hum of the engine and the rhythmic beat of my favorite tunes creating a comforting cocoon in my RV. The open road stretched before me like an endless promise, and the freedom of solo travel was my sanctuary. Little did I know, that sanctuary was about to crumble. As I approached a desolate stretch, I noticed a figure on the side of the road. A hitchhiker, seemingly stranded and waiting for help. A twinge of empathy prompted me to pull over, the naivety of goodwill clouding my judgment. The hitchhiker, a nondescript man with a backpack, appeared grateful for the rescue. He climbed in, expressions of gratitude punctuating our brief exchange. As we resumed our journey, the initial discomfort of sharing space with a stranger was overshadowed by the picturesque landscapes that unfolded around us. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ethereal glow upon the surroundings. However, as night descended, an unspoken tension filled the confined space of the RV. The hitchhiker's demeanor shifted subtly, his gaze lingering a fraction too long, and the air grew thick with an unsettling energy. My instincts tingled, an involuntary response to the subtle shifts in the atmosphere. I attempted to engage in casual conversation, hoping to dispel the growing unease. His responses, though seemingly benign, carried an undercurrent of something darker. I couldn't put my finger on it, but a creeping sense of dread began to infiltrate my every nerve. As we ventured deeper into the night, a sinister truth emerged. The hitchhiker wasn't stranded, he was an architect of a meticulously concealed plot. His true intentions unfolded like a chilling revelation. My RV had become a cage, and I was the unwitting captive. The vast darkness outside mirrored the shadows encroaching within. Panic set in as I realized the gravity of my situation. The road that once symbolized freedom transformed into a corridor of impending doom. My pleas for him to exit the RV fell on deaf ears. His intentions failed in the obscurity of the night. The struggle for control escalated, a nightmarish dance within the confined space of the RV. I fought against the confines of my own vehicle, the once familiar surroundings now alien and malevolent. The hitchhiker's intentions became clear. My journey had taken an unforeseen detour into a realm of terror. Desperation fueled my actions, as every mile felt like an eternity. The isolation of the road, once a source of solace, now magnified the horror of my predicament. I wrestled with the wheel, my attempts to regain control met with the unwavering determination of my assailant. The night, once a canvas of stars, bore witness to a struggle that transcended the realms of reason. The open road became a battleground where survival hinged on my ability to outwit the sinister forces at play. The darkness outside mirrored the chaos within, an abyss of uncertainty. Exhaustion clawed at me, the relentless fight draining my strength. The RV, once a vessel of liberation, had become a crucible of fear. The hitchhiker's malevolent intent, though shrouded in mystery, emanated like a palpable darkness. As dawn approached, the first light of day felt like a tentative reprieve. The hitchhiker, seemingly sated by the night's ordeal, exited the RV without a word. I watched as he vanished into the shadows, leaving behind an indelible scar on the fabric of my existence. I thought it would be a great adventure, just me and my beat-up RV against the vastness of Death Valley, California. The sun beat down on the rusty exterior as I navigated the desolate roads leading to an abandoned mining town. The idea of exploring the remnants of the past appealed to my sense of adventure, but little did I know what awaited me. The town emerged like a ghostly apparition in the shimmering heat. Buildings, weathered by time, stood like silent witnesses to the town's forgotten tales. A sense of eerie nostalgia hung in the air, and I couldn't resist the pull to unearth the secrets concealed within those dilapidated structures. As I cautiously roamed the ghost town's empty streets, a subtle unease crept over me. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, and the silence echoed with a history I couldn't comprehend. Every creak of the abandoned structures resonated like a ghostly whisper, a chorus of the past begging to be heard. The town's buildings, with their peeling paint and broken windows, seemed to harbor memories darker than the sun-soaked surroundings. I felt like an intruder, disturbing the dormant remnants of a time long gone. A shiver traced my spine as I delved deeper, drawn to the enigma of the deserted settlement. My exploration took an ominous turn when I stumbled upon an old mine entrance. The darkness within seemed to swallow any remnants of daylight, a void beckoning me to uncover its secrets. The air grew heavy with a suffocating tension, as if the past itself were closing in around me. As I descended into the abyss of the mine, the temperature dropped, and an unsettling stillness enveloped me. The dim glow of my flashlight illuminated the decaying tunnels, revealing a history written in the dust-covered walls. Tales of labor, despair, and perhaps something more sinister lingered in the air. Suddenly, the echo of my footsteps became a haunting symphony, as if the very mine walls were whispering a tale of tragedy and malevolence. My heart raced, and an inexplicable fear clawed at my insides. I questioned the wisdom of venturing into the bowels of this forgotten abyss. The further I ventured, the more the darkness seemed to materialize into something tangible. Whispers grew louder, forming a chorus of despair that echoed in the cavernous depths. The mine, once a source of livelihood, became a tomb harboring the unsettling residue of its past. Panic set in as I realized that I wasn't alone. Flickering shadows danced along the walls, revealing the presence of figures in the darkness. Eyes, void of any humanity, stared back at me from the impenetrable blackness. The ghosts of the town, or perhaps something more malevolent, were now my reluctant companions. A cold sweat broke out as I quickened my pace, the echoes of unseen entities following my every move. The mind, once a curiosity, became a labyrinth of horror. The weight of the past pressed upon me like a vice, and the air became a suffocating force. Fumbling through the labyrinthine tunnels, I found myself disoriented and trapped within the subterranean web of the mine. Panic fueled my every step as the mine's sinister inhabitants closed in. The echoes of their footsteps reverberated, a haunting symphony closing in around me. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows on the mine walls. In that fleeting darkness, the ghostly figures advanced, their silent pursuit growing more palpable with every passing moment. The mine, a seemingly innocuous relic of the past, had become a trap, ensnaring me in the clutches of its malevolent history. Frantically, I searched for an exit, each turn leading to a dead end or a corridor that seemed to extend endlessly. The mine, once a mere curiosity, had transformed into a nightmarish labyrinth where escape seemed an elusive dream. As my breaths became rapid, and the oppressive air threatened to engulf me, I stumbled upon a narrow passage leading to the surface. With every ounce of strength, I rushed towards the faint glow of daylight, the oppressive darkness of the mine relinquishing its grip on me. Emerging into the harsh light of day felt like an awakening from a macabre nightmare. The abandoned mining town, once a canvas of forgotten tales, now held the weight of my own harrowing experience. The RV, battered and worn, awaited me like a sanctuary against the haunting remnants of Death Valley's past. We thought a weekend getaway to Shenandoah National Park in Virginia would be the perfect escape from the mundane routine. Packed into our RV, we headed for the serenity of nature. Little did we know that our tranquil retreat would turn into a nightmare. The park greeted us with its dense forests and winding trails. As we set up camp in a secluded spot, we were blissfully unaware of the tension simmering beneath the surface, a feud between rival groups of campers that had festered for who knows how long. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a serene glow over the park. Around our campfire, we reveled in the simplicity of nature, the stars overhead providing the perfect backdrop. But, unbeknownst to us, the tranquility was a facade concealing a dangerous undercurrent. It started subtly. Hushed whispers from neighboring campsites, furtive glances that spoke volumes, but we dismissed them as products of an overactive imagination. Little did we realize that our chosen spot sat at the nexus of a brewing storm. As night settled in, the atmosphere shifted. The distant flicker of other campfires seemed to take on an ominous glow. It became apparent that two rival groups were in a silent standoff, a feud that escalated with each passing moment. It wasn't long before the stillness of the night was shattered by heated arguments. Harsh words and accusations flew like sparks in the darkness. We huddled inside our RV, the thin walls offering little solace as the tension outside mounted. The situation intensified when the groups descended into physical altercations. Shadows danced in the glow of competing campfires as the rival campers clashed in the dark. We could hear the sounds of scuffling, the echoes of pain, and the chilling realization that we were trapped in the crossfire. Fear gripped us as the chaos outside escalated into a cacophony of violence. Shouts and yells reverberated through the forest, an unsettling symphony of aggression that seemed to close in from all sides. We huddled together, paralyzed by the sheer terror of the unfolding nightmare. Desperation set in as we debated our options. The feuding groups, blinded by their animosity, paid no heed to our presence. We were collateral damage and a few fueled by unknown grievances, and our pleas for peace fell on deaf ears. As we contemplated the unthinkable abandoning our camp in the dead of night, we were met with the realization that the feuding factions had blocked our exit. Our RV sat in the midst of a battleground, the feuding campers unknowingly trapping us in their relentless conflict. The forest, once a refuge, now harbored an atmosphere thick with hostility. We clung to each other, our hearts pounding in sync with the sounds of violence outside. Our RV became a fragile cocoon, offering little protection from the chaos that threatened to consume us. As dawn approached, the feud reached a crescendo. The rival campers, exhausted and battered, retreated to their respective corners of the park. The aftermath of the nightmarish ordeal lay scattered around us, a battlefield of broken tents, smoldering embers, and the lingering stench of fear. As soon as the morning came, we seized the opportunity to escape the park, leaving behind the haunting echoes of the feud that forever marred our supposed weekend escape. We were just a bunch of friends seeking adventure on an RV trip to Gulf Shores, Alabama. The sun was shining, the road stretched ahead, and the promise of a carefree vacation hung in the air. Little did we know, the open road held a sinister turn that would shatter our blissful journey. Our RV, a rickety but trusty companion, decided it needed a break too. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, it coughed, sputtered, and came to an abrupt halt. Panic set in as we assessed the situation. Stranded on a desolate stretch of road, our hopes were pinned on the rare passing car. Miraculously, a tow truck appeared on the horizon, driven by a man who claimed to be a mechanic. Grateful for the stroke of luck, we welcomed his seemingly helpful demeanor. He inspected the RV, muttering about engine troubles and mysterious malfunctions. As he tinkered with the engine, a sense of unease crept over us. His eyes, shrouded by greasy bangs, held a glint that betrayed more than mechanical expertise. Uneasy glances passed between us, but the isolation of the roadside repair shop left us at his mercy. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the barren landscape. The mechanic's demeanor shifted. His friendly facade gave way to a palpable malevolence. It became apparent that we were not dealing with an ordinary roadside savior. He spoke in riddles, hints of dark motives veiled behind a thin veneer of congeniality. As the night descended, we realized the dire situation we were in. The repair shop, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a trap, and we were the unwitting prey. Attempts to leave were met with veiled threats, and the air grew thick with tension. Fear pulsed through our veins as we grasped the severity of the situation. The mechanic had no intention of letting us go, and our pleas fell on deaf ears. The shop's remote location became our prison. No cell signal, no passing cars, just the oppressive darkness and the unsettling hum of the flickering fluorescent lights. We huddled together, devising desperate plans to escape the clutches of this unhinged mechanic. The sound of footsteps in the dead of night sent shivers down our spines. The mechanic lurked in the shadows, his intentions veiled in sinister mystery. Every creak of the shop's door, every distant sound, became a harbinger of impending doom. We were caught in a nightmarish game, a deadly chess match with a mechanic who reveled in our fear. As we fumbled in the dark, attempting to outwit our captor, the air became charged with the weight of our shared terror. The RV, once a symbol of freedom, now stood as a metallic prison. We yearned for the open road, the safety of civilization, but the mechanic's twisted game showed no signs of ending. The night stretched on, each passing moment etching the nightmare deeper into our collective consciousness. It wasn't until the first light of dawn that a glimmer of hope emerged. A distant rumble signaled the approach of another vehicle. With a surge of adrenaline, we seized the opportunity to break free from our mechanical captor. The mechanic, realizing his prey was slipping away, unleashed a final barrage of threats. We sprinted towards the approaching car, our escape hinging on the kindness of strangers. The driver, oblivious to the night of terror we endured, offered us salvation. As the RV disappeared in the rearview mirror, the mechanic's menacing figure grew smaller. We were free, but the nightmare lingered. I was just a guy looking for a peaceful spot to park my RV near Mendocino, California. The coastline seemed like the perfect escape from the chaos of daily life. Little did I know, this quaint town had a dark secret beneath its serene facade. I found a secluded spot, surrounded by towering redwoods. The air was crisp, and the rhythmic crash of waves against the cliffs created a soothing soundtrack. It all seemed idyllic until I noticed something off about the locals. People stared a little too long, their eyes carrying an unsettling intensity. Whispers followed my every step, and the once friendly greetings felt like failed warnings. Ignoring the odd vibes, I set out to explore the town. As I wandered through the charming streets, I stumbled upon a gathering in the town square. The residents stood in a circle, their faces obscured by hooded cloaks. Curiosity got the better of me, and I edged closer, trying to make sense of the bizarre scene. The air grew thick with tension as I witnessed their ritual. The townsfolk chanted in a language I couldn't comprehend, their movements synchronized in an eerie dance. Unsettled, I retreated, convincing myself it was just a quirky local tradition. Night fell, and the RV became my refuge. I could feel the weight of their stares lingering, a sense of being watched from the shadows. Sleep eluded me, replaced by a gnawing unease that gripped my gut. As the days passed, the town's sinister underbelly revealed itself. Whispers turned into veiled threats, urging me to leave before it was too late. The once friendly locals now seemed like mere actors in a macabre play. One evening, I witnessed something that shattered any illusion of normalcy. A hidden door, obscured by vines, led to a secret chamber beneath the town. It was there that I discovered the true extent of their rituals, the darkness that permeated every corner. Fear became a constant companion as I navigated the thin line between secrecy and survival. The townsfolk, with their disturbing ceremonies, seemed determined to ensure I never left Mendocino alive. Paranoia gripped me, every creak in the night sending shivers down my spine. Desperation took hold as I tried to unravel the mystery shrouding the town. Late-night excursions revealed hidden symbols, cryptic messages etched into the town's architecture. The more I discovered, the clearer it became that I was an unwelcome outsider in a community bound by something far more sinister than I could comprehend. The once charming coastline transformed into a claustrophobic nightmare. I knew escape was essential, but every attempt was thwarted by the residents' unnerving vigilance. It was as if the town itself conspired to keep its secrets hidden from prying eyes. The locals became increasingly aggressive, their veiled threats escalating into open hostility. Sleepless nights turned into a relentless battle for survival. I felt like prey, cornered by an unseen predator with a hunger for the unknown. One fateful night, as the moon cast long shadows across the town square, I made my move. Stealthily navigating the darkened streets, I evaded their watchful eyes and reached the outskirts of Mendocino. The distant hum of my RV's engine felt like a victory cry. With every passing mile, the town's suffocating grip loosened. Yet, the nightmares lingered, the echoes of their rituals haunting my every thought. We thought it would be a great family trip, camping in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas. An RV, some supplies, and the promise of adventure. Little did we know, our dream getaway would turn into a living nightmare. The drive to the Ozarks was scenic, and we were excited as we found a quiet spot to park the RV, surrounded by towering trees. It felt like our private piece of nature. But the tranquility was short-lived. On the first night, strange noises echoed through the woods. Rustlings and whispers that didn't fit with the usual sounds of nature. We brushed it off, attributing it to local wildlife, but a gnawing feeling of unease settled in. The next morning, we met some seemingly friendly locals. They warned us about the wildlife and shared tales of the Ozarks. As night fell again, so did the temperature, and a chill crept into the air. We huddled in the RV, trying to shake off the unease that had settled over us. That night, shadows danced outside our windows. Footsteps echoed in the darkness. Every creak and crack of the RV felt amplified. I went out to investigate, but there was nothing. Just the dense darkness of the Ozark night. As the days passed, the locals' friendliness turned into something more sinister. They watched us, silent figures observing our every move. Their eyes held a cold intensity that sent shivers down my spine. I began to question the wisdom of our Ozark adventure. One evening, we discovered something unsettling. Hidden cameras, strategically placed around our campsite. The realization hit us like a punch to the gut. We were being watched, monitored by unseen eyes with unknown intentions. Conversations with the locals took a turn for the cryptic. Veiled threats, dark warnings that made no sense. The once welcoming atmosphere of the Ozarks transformed into a web of paranoia and fear. We were outsiders, and the locals made it clear we were not welcome. One night, the situation escalated. We heard chanting in the distance, a haunting melody that sent shivers down our spines. It was accompanied by flickering torchlight, drawing us to a clearing where the locals gathered. Their faces were obscured, hidden by shadows and the eerie glow of the flames. Our RV became a fortress, the only barrier between us and whatever malevolent force lurked in the Ozark shadows. Every night, we'd huddle inside, straining our ears to catch any signs of the unseen watchers. Escape became an obsession. We felt like prey, surrounded by a darkness that seemed to close in with every passing day. The once charming Ozark Mountains became a maze, with us desperately seeking a way out. Our RV was vandalized, tires slashed in the dead of night. Panic set in as we realized the locals were closing in, their intentions unknown but undoubtedly dangerous. We were trapped, hostages to the mysterious force that gripped the heart of the Ozarks. One night, we decided to make a run for it. We drove through the winding roads, our headlights cutting through the Ozark night. But the locals pursued us, a caravan of shadows in pursuit. The chase was a blur of fear and desperation, our RV navigating the treacherous terrain with the relentless pursuit of our unseen tormentors. Finally, we reached the edge of the Ozarks, leaving the haunting landscape behind. The locals, their figures disappearing into the darkness, halted their pursuit. We drove for hours, not daring to look back until the sun bathed the landscape in its early morning glow. I was on a solo hiking trip, just me and my RV, seeking the serenity of nature near Crater Lake. The dense forest surrounded my campsite, and the stillness of the night was only broken by the crackling fire and the distant rustle of leaves. As I settled in, I noticed an unusual glow through the trees. Curiosity got the better of me, so I grabbed my flashlight and cautiously ventured into the darkness. What I discovered was a hidden campsite, shrouded in secrecy, and occupied by a group of people engaged in activities that sent shivers down my spine. They huddled around a flickering fire, engaged in intense conversations. My instinct screamed at me to stay hidden, to quietly retreat and forget what I'd seen. But fear rooted me in place as I observed their ominous actions, a knot tightening in my stomach. A quiet breeze carried snippets of their conversation, words like deal, shipment, and cash. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd stumbled upon an illegal operation, and my mere presence was a threat. I inched away, my heart pounding in my chest. I needed to get back to my RV, pack up, and leave without alerting them to my discovery. Every step felt like an eternity, each crackle of a twig beneath my boot echoing through the silent night. But my plans were disrupted when a branch snapped under my foot. The noise echoed through the forest, freezing me in place. The group fell silent, and I knew they had heard. Panic surged, and I sprinted back to my RV. Adrenaline fueled my movements as I fumbled with the keys, desperately trying to start the engine silently. The RV roared to life, but the headlights exposed me in the darkness. I could see the figures emerging from the shadows, their faces hidden by the shadows, and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Panic turned into terror as I realized the severity of the situation. I sped away, gravel crunching under the tires, leaving the clandestine campsite behind. But they were out on my trail, their headlights piercing through the night as they chased me down the narrow road. Fear gripped me, and I pushed the RV to its limits, the engine roaring in protest. The forest seemed to close in around me, and the adrenaline-fueled tension in the air was palpable. Gunshots shattered the stillness, and I could feel the whizzing of bullets around me. Panic escalated into sheer terror as I weaved through the trees, desperately trying to escape this unforeseen nightmare. My mind raced, fear etched into every fiber of my being. The pursuit continued, and with each passing moment, I felt the threat of violence escalating. I couldn't comprehend how a simple camping trip had turned into a life-or-death struggle. I pushed on, the road twisting and turning, the RV becoming my refuge and my cage simultaneously. The pursuers showed no signs of relenting, their determination fueling the nightmare that unfolded on that desolate road. The RV's engine sputtered, a sign of the strain it endured. I glimpsed a clearing up ahead, a chance to escape into the darkness of the forest. With a burst of adrenaline, I veered off the road, crashing through the underbrush. The sounds of pursuit grew distant, replaced by the cacophony of the forest. I kept driving, putting as much distance as possible between myself and the hidden campsite. The RV, now battered and worn, rumbled through the wilderness, carrying me away from the nightmare that had unfolded under the cover of the trees. Eventually, the forest gave way to open terrain, and I drove until the first light of dawn painted the sky. I never looked back, haunted by the realization that my innocent camping trip had led me straight into the crossfire of illicit activities. The authorities were alerted, and I shared my harrowing experience, but the faces of those individuals and the terror that night imprinted on my memory were indelible. I always thought the Everglades would be a great adventure. My wife and I, Emma, decided to take our RV on a road trip through Florida. It started out great, the sun shining through the cypress trees, but things changed when we entered a secluded area. The map warned us it was swampy, but it didn't prepare us for the sense of isolation that crept in. We parked at a small RV site. A few other RVs were scattered around, but one stood out. Rusty, mismatched, it looked like it had seen better days. People gathered around it, eyeing us suspiciously. We ignored the feeling of unease and set up camp. That evening, we heard hushed conversations from our neighbors. They seemed to be planning something. Late into the night, we heard footsteps outside. Emma peeked through the blinds and saw shadows moving around our RV. Fear settled in. We decided to leave, but our RV's engine refused to start. Panic set in as we heard the group approaching. Knocking on the door, they demanded we join them. Fearful, we refused. The atmosphere turned hostile. One of them, a burly man with a menacing grin, spoke of a swamp tradition. A test, he said, to prove our worth. Emma pleaded with me not to go. They led us to an old, dilapidated shack. Inside, dimly lit, strange symbols marked the walls. Our hearts pounded as they handed us a rusty knife. The leader explained, "Survive the night, and you're one of us." We were thrust into the swamp, disoriented and frightened. The night was filled with eerie sounds. Our minds played tricks on us. Shadows moved, and every rustle in the bushes sent shivers down our spines. Emma clutched my arm as we stumbled through the swamp. The group watched from a distance, barely visible. Hours passed, our nerves fraying. As dawn broke, the swamp revealed its haunting beauty, but our ordeal had scarred us. Exhausted and terrified, we returned to the RV site. The group, satisfied with our survival, dispersed. We didn't stay to ask questions. We drove through the Everglades, the sun now obscured by the looming cypress trees, casting long shadows over the swamp. Days later, the terror lingered. We couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Our RV adventure became a haunting memory. The Everglades held secrets, and we were fortunate to escape with our lives. I thought a solo road trip to Big Bend National Park in Texas would be the perfect escape. Just me, my trusty RV, and the vast expanse of the desert. Little did I know, this journey would turn into a living nightmare. The park seemed peaceful at first, the desert sun casting long shadows on the red earth. I set up camp, reveling in the solitude, the beauty of the rugged landscape stretching as far as the eye could see. But soon, I noticed tensions lingering in the air. A local dispute simmered beneath the surface, a feud between families that had deep roots in the desert soil. Unaware of the brewing storm, I became an unwitting spectator in their dangerous game. As I explored the park, I stumbled upon an abandoned mining town. Ruins of a forgotten era, decaying structures standing as silent witnesses to a bygone time. Little did I know, the echoes of the past would soon catch up with the present. One evening, a group of locals approached my campsite. They looked at me with suspicion, their eyes holding the weight of years of rivalry. Uncomfortable tension hung in the air as they exchanged words, their voices low and menacing. That night, my RV became a battleground. The feud erupted in a cacophony of shouts and gunshots. Panic gripped me as I huddled inside, the thin walls offering little protection against the violence unfolding just beyond my doorstep. In the flickering light of the desert moon, I saw shadows moving, figures darting between the RVs. The locals had brought their vendetta to my doorstep, and I was caught in the crossfire. Fear paralyzed me as the sound of footsteps drew nearer, each step carrying the weight of impending doom. The desert, once a serene escape, transformed into a battlefield. Gunfire echoed in the canyon, ricocheting off the rocks. I cowered in my RV, praying that the chaos would pass, that the desert night would swallow me whole and spare me from the horrors outside. As the night wore on, the intensity of the confrontation increased. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder, the darkness punctuated by flashes of gunfire. I couldn't fathom how my peaceful road trip had unraveled into a life-or-death struggle. In a desperate attempt to escape the madness, I revved up the RV's engine, navigating through the chaos in blind panic. Dust clouds billowed around me as I sped through the desert, the echoes of the feud fading into the distance. With each passing mile, I felt a mix of relief and terror. The park, once a symbol of natural beauty, now held memories of a nightmarish ordeal. My solo journey became a harrowing tale of survival, a story etched into the red earth of Big Bend National Park. I rolled into Acadia National Park, eager for a peaceful retreat in my RV. The crisp air and the scent of pine promised tranquility. Little did I know, my peaceful escape would take a sinister turn. I found a secluded spot, surrounded by towering trees. Setting up camp felt like a breeze. The gentle rustle of leaves and the distant calls of birds created a serene backdrop. As night fell, I settled in, the soft glow of my campfire casting dancing shadows. The first sign of trouble came when I noticed another camper nearby. A man, not too far away, in an equally inconspicuous RV. At first, I thought nothing of it, just another nature enthusiast enjoying the park. As darkness settled, I caught glimpses of him watching me from the shadows. Unsettled, I shrugged it off, attributing it to the paranoia that often accompanies solitude in the wilderness. But things escalated. Late into the night, I heard footsteps outside my RV. Cautiously, I peered through the window, catching sight of the stranger lingering near my campsite. A chill ran down my spine. The next morning, I discovered my supplies had been tampered with. Food containers opened, gear rearranged. The stranger's intentions became clear. This was no ordinary camper. Paranoia set in, and I felt like a target in my own haven. I approached him, trying to keep my composure. He feigned innocence, claiming he was just exploring. I couldn't shake the feeling that he had a hidden agenda, but without concrete proof, I had to tread carefully. The days that followed blurred into a nerve-wracking routine. Every night, he circled my campsite like a predator stalking its prey. Sleep became elusive as I anticipated the creaking of footsteps outside. One evening, he approached me, a malicious glint in his eyes. His tone shifted from faux friendliness to veiled threats. He hinted at my vulnerability, the isolation of the park working against me. Fear gnawed at me, but I stood my ground. I asked him to leave, but he only laughed, disappearing into the shadows. The confrontation left me shaken, questioning the safety of my haven in the wilderness. I considered leaving, but the idea of surrendering my retreat to this hostile presence angered me. I fortified my camp, desperate to hold on to my sliver of solitude. One night, the stranger's aggression reached its peak. I awoke to the sound of slashing, the unmistakable noise of my RV's tires being punctured. Panic surged as I realized he was trapping me in this isolated nightmare. The RV became my prison, and the once peaceful surroundings transformed into a haunting landscape. Alone and vulnerable, I couldn't escape the feeling of being hunted. Days dragged on, a sinister game of cat and mouse. The stranger reveled in my torment, his presence a constant threat. The isolation of Acadia National Park turned from a solace into a suffocating dread. I mustered the courage to confront him again, demanding an end to this torment. He grinned, revealing the depths of his malice. It was clear he derived sick pleasure from my suffering. With no other options, I reached out to the park rangers. They patrolled the area, but the stranger eluded them like a phantom. The rangers assured me they were doing everything they could, but the nightmare persisted. Desperation consumed me, the once idyllic haven now tainted by fear. I lived in a constant state of vigilance, haunted by the looming threat outside my window. One fateful night, the stranger escalated his campaign of terror. He set my camp ablaze, flames licking the sides of my RV. Panic seized me, and I scrambled to escape the inferno. As I stumbled out into the night, gasping for breath, I saw him standing in the shadows, his malevolence etched across his face. He vanished into the darkness, leaving me to face the destruction he wrought. The RV, my sanctuary turned charred wreckage, epitomized the nightmare that unfolded in Acadia National Park. We thought a family trip to Gatlinburg, Tennessee would be the perfect vacation. The picturesque Smoky Mountains and a quaint RV site promised an escape from our hectic lives. Little did we know, this family getaway would become a descent into a nightmare. As we set up camp near the seemingly idyllic mountain town, the air held a sense of serenity. The RV hummed with the excitement of a family ready for adventure. We were blissfully unaware of the secrets the town concealed. On our first stroll through the charming streets, we noticed peculiar glances from the locals. Whispers followed us, like the rustling leaves of the surrounding forest. Something felt off, but we shrugged it off as small-town curiosity. As night fell, the shadows draped over Gatlinburg, casting an eerie atmosphere. We gathered around the campfire, exchanging stories and laughter, attempting to ignore the unsettling feeling gnawing at us. That's when we heard it, distant murmurs and chanting echoing through the mountainous terrain. Curiosity got the better of us. Intrigued and somewhat uneasy, we decided to explore the town after dark. The streets, once charming, took on a foreboding aura. We stumbled upon a gathering in an abandoned church, cloaked figures engaging in rituals that sent shivers down our spines. Realization dawned, we were in the midst of something beyond our understanding. Panic set in when the locals noticed our presence. Their eyes, hollow and devoid of humanity, fixated on us as if we had trespassed into a forbidden realm. Fumbling through the darkened streets, we realized escape was our only option. The town, which had seemed welcoming, now felt like a labyrinth of malevolence closing in on us. Fear gripped our hearts as we navigated through the shadows, our footsteps echoing louder than the whispers of the surrounding forest. The RV became our sanctuary, a fragile barrier against the encroaching darkness. We sped through the winding mountain roads, haunted by the echoes of those chants. It felt like the town itself was reaching out, trying to reclaim what we had witnessed. As we left Gatlinburg behind, the weight of the encounter lingered. The scenic mountains, once a source of awe, now held the memories of a town steeped in ominous secrets. The family vacation we had envisioned had transformed into a harrowing escape from the clutches of a sinister mountain town. Even miles away, the dread persisted. The images of hooded figures and the unsettling chants replayed in our minds. We parked our RVs in Key West, ready for a fun camping trip with friends. The salty breeze and the promise of a tropical escape fueled our excitement. Little did we know, this paradise would soon turn into a nightmarish ordeal. The RV park seemed like the perfect spot, palm trees swaying, the ocean in the distance, and a sense of tranquility. As evening descended, we gathered around a campfire, laughing and sharing stories. The atmosphere felt right, but little did we realize the sinister undercurrents lurking beneath. As the night deepened, we noticed peculiar individuals wandering through the RV park. At first, we dismissed them as eccentric locals, but their unsettling behavior became impossible to ignore. They lingered in the shadows, watching us with hollow eyes. The campfire tales took a darker turn as whispers spread among us. Stories of the park's dark history, of disturbed individuals drawn to its anonymity. Fear danced in our eyes, but we reassured ourselves that it was just folklore, nothing more. As the night progressed, a sense of unease settled over the camp. The air grew heavy, and the laughter dwindled. Our attempts at brushing off the mounting tension felt feeble, like trying to ignore the approaching storm. Around midnight, we heard strange noises outside our RVs, hushed conversations, footsteps in the darkness. Anxiety gripped us, each creak of a branch or rustle of leaves amplifying our fears. The line between reality and paranoia blurred. The RV park took on a sinister aura, the tropical haven now a maze of shadows and hidden threats. We gathered, debating whether to confront these disturbing strangers or retreat into our locked RVs. Uncertainty paralyzed us. Then came the knocking, a slow, deliberate rapping on our RV doors. Fear rippled through our group, faces reflecting the shared terror. We hesitated, glancing at one another, searching for reassurance that wasn't there. Someone mustered the courage to peek through the blinds, and a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. The strangers were not merely eccentric, they were deranged. Their faces contorted with madness, eyes vacant yet filled with a malevolence that chilled our souls. Panic set in as we realized the danger surrounding us. These disturbed individuals weren't merely passers-by, they had targeted our camp. The knocking grew more insistent, rhythmic, as if demanding entry into our sanctuary. Terrified whispers debated our next move: call the police, confront them, or endure the night in silence. We opted for the police, dialing with trembling hands, hoping help would arrive before the nightmare escalated. Minutes stretched into agonizing hours, the strangers persistently haunting our campsite. Shadows danced menacingly outside our windows, and the knocks echoed like a macabre drumbeat. Our sense of time warped, each second dragging us deeper into a nightmarish abyss. Finally, the distant wail of sirens offered a glimmer of hope. Relief washed over us as the police arrived, dispersing the disturbed individuals into the darkness. But the scars of that night lingered, etched into the fabric of our once idyllic escape. The following morning, we left Key West, our paradise tarnished by the horror we had endured. The sun-drenched beaches and swaying palms seemed like a facade, concealing the disturbing reality that had unfolded beneath the tropical veneer. Our RVs rolled away, leaving behind a nightmarish memory. I thought a solo trip to Joshua Tree National Park, California, would be the ultimate adventure. An RV, the vast desert landscape, it all seemed like the perfect escape. Little did I know that this journey would plunge me into a nightmarish reality, unraveling the secrets hidden beneath the twisted Joshua trees. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the arid expanse, I set up camp. The silence of the desert was both enchanting and unsettling. The stars glittered above, a dazzling spectacle against the inky backdrop. I felt like I was the only soul in this vast, mysterious wilderness. On my first day of exploration, the rugged beauty of Joshua Tree captivated me. The rock formations, the Joshua trees themselves, it was a spectacle that felt almost otherworldly. I wandered deeper into the park, the vastness stretching out before me. As the day faded into dusk, the desert landscape took on an ethereal glow. I returned to my RV, ready to embrace the solitude of the night. That's when I heard it, distant whispers carried by the wind. Initially dismissed as a product of the imagination, they grew louder, more distinct, echoing through the silence of the desert night. Curiosity gripped me, compelling me to follow the haunting whispers. I found myself at the edge of a rocky outcrop, overlooking a secluded valley. Below, a group of trespassers gathered around an ancient, weathered monolith, bathed in moonlight. Their eyes reflected a strange mixture of fear and determination. Suddenly, they noticed me, a lone intruder into their secret ritual. Panic seized them, and their gazes turned hostile. Fear crawled up my spine as I stumbled backward, realizing that whatever they were hiding, they intended to guard it at any cost. Retreating to my RV, I pondered the significance of that eerie gathering. Sleep eluded me that night as the whispers lingered in the air. The next morning, I awoke to an unsettling sight, my surroundings marred by cryptic symbols etched into the desert floor, as if a warning to leave this place. Despite the warning signs, a gnawing curiosity compelled me to delve deeper into the mystery. Days turned into nights, and each exploration revealed more about the trespassers' determination to guard the secrets of Joshua Tree. Their presence became more menacing, shadows lurking just beyond the reach of the campfire's glow. Paranoia set in. Every rustle of the wind and creak of the Joshua trees seemed like a harbinger of impending doom. The line between reality and imagination blurred as I grappled with the inexplicable events unfolding in the heart of the desert. The RV, once a haven, became a cage surrounded by the oppressive vastness of Joshua Tree. Every nocturnal sound heightened my unease, and every encounter with those mysterious trespassers intensified the dread that coiled within me. As the desert nights grew colder, the whispers of the wind transformed into chilling warnings. I realized I was entangled in a web of secrets, and the trespassers saw me as a threat to their hidden truths. With every passing day, their determination to keep the park's mysteries hidden escalated. The solitude that initially beckoned me now felt like a trap closing in. Port Aransas, Texas, seemed like the perfect spot for a solo trip in my RV. A quiet coastal town with the promise of tranquility. Little did I know, tranquility would be the last thing on my mind. I parked near the beach, hoping for a serene night with the sound of waves lulling me to sleep. The salty breeze carried the promise of a peaceful evening. As dusk settled, I noticed a local fisherman nearby. He seemed harmless at first, casting his line into the water. A gnawing feeling in my gut told me otherwise. As the night progressed, I prepared a simple meal in my RV, glancing occasionally at the fisherman. He stared back, his eyes carrying an unsettling intensity. A chill ran down my spine, but I brushed it off, attributing it to my overactive imagination. As darkness fully enveloped the coastal town, the fisherman's behavior took a sinister turn. He approached my RV, his footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night. I hesitated before opening the door, and that's when he spoke, his words dripping with menace. He claimed the beach as his territory, warning me to leave before things turned ugly. Fear gripped me, and I stammered an apology, promising to relocate. But his threats escalated, becoming more explicit and chilling. It wasn't just about the beach anymore, it was personal. I locked the RV door, my heart pounding as his ominous silhouette lingered outside. Minutes turned into hours as I listened to his muttered threats through the thin walls of the vehicle. Panic set in, and I contemplated driving away, but the fear of confronting him in the dark kept me paralyzed. The town, which once seemed welcoming, now felt like a trap. I regretted choosing this seemingly serene spot for my getaway. The coastal breeze now carried an air of malevolence, and the rhythmic waves sounded more like a taunting chant. I tried to reason with the fisherman, pleading for him to let me be. But reason abandoned him, replaced by a volatile mix of anger and aggression. His threats escalated into a relentless barrage, punctuated by the occasional bang on the RV, jolting me with each impact. Inside the confined space, the air grew thick with tension. I huddled in a corner, clutching my phone, contemplating calling for help. The reception, however, was patchy at best. Fear, frustration, and a sense of isolation pressed down on me like a suffocating weight. The night seemed endless, the fisherman's menacing presence an unrelenting force. His threats became more deranged, a disturbing symphony that echoed in the hollows of my mind. Every creak of the RV felt like an intrusion, and the relentless banging on the walls intensified. As dawn approached, the fisherman's demeanor shifted. He muttered one final threat, a promise that lingered in the air like a venomous fog. With the first light of day, he vanished into the shadows, leaving me shaken and traumatized. I wasted no time packing up, desperate to escape the haunting grip of Port Aransas. Amarillo, Texas, seemed like a pit stop for a quiet night in my RV. The endless stretch of road had taken its toll, and I yearned for a peaceful spot. Little did I know, peace would elude me that night. I found a secluded area on the outskirts and set up camp. The moon cast an eerie glow over the landscape, but it was the distant silhouette of a farmhouse that piqued my curiosity. Against my better judgment, I decided to investigate. As I approached, the farmhouse loomed like a specter in the darkness. The windows were dark, but an unsettling feeling settled in my gut. I hesitated but forged ahead. An old swing creaked in the wind, setting an ominous tone for the night. I reached the front door and knocked. The sound echoed through the silence, met only by the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Just as I contemplated leaving, the door groaned open. A chill ran down my spine. Inside, the air was thick with a musty smell. Shadows danced in the corners, and the silence was oppressive. My footsteps seemed to reverberate through the empty halls. I called out, but my voice hung in the air, unanswered. As I explored further, I stumbled upon a room that seemed untouched by time. Dust-covered furniture adorned the space, frozen in a bygone era. A sense of foreboding crept over me, intensifying with every step. A distant sound caught my attention, a faint murmur. Following it, I found a cellar door. Hesitation gripped me, but curiosity propelled me forward. The steps creaked under my weight as I descended into the darkness below. The cellar held a scene straight from a nightmare. Figures draped in tattered clothing huddled in corners. Their eyes, hollow and vacant, stared back at me. I recoiled, realizing I had stumbled upon something beyond my comprehension. Their murmurs turned to whispers, a disconcerting chant that echoed through the dimly lit space. Fear took hold, urging me to escape, but my path was blocked. The eerie inhabitants advanced, their movements synchronized in an unsettling dance. I retreated up the stairs, the murmur growing louder. Panic set in, and I fumbled for my flashlight. The pale glow revealed their gaunt faces, their expressions devoid of humanity. I rushed through the farmhouse, the distant echoes of their chant haunting my every step. Back in my RV, I locked the door, heart pounding. The farmhouse loomed in the rearview mirror, its dark secrets sealed within. The night was far from over. The murmur persisted, an ethereal whisper that seeped into the confines of my safe haven. As the hours passed, the farmhouse became a distant silhouette on the horizon. I was driving alone in my RV, somewhere in Amarillo, Texas. The sun was setting, casting long shadows on the endless highway. The road seemed quiet, but that's when I noticed it, a mysterious motorhome in my rearview mirror. At first, I thought nothing of it. Just another traveler, right? But as I continued down the road, the motorhome stayed with me, always a few car lengths behind. Anxiety stirred in my chest, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I decided to test my theory, taking a couple of turns randomly. To my horror, the motorhome followed my every move. My heart raced, and a chill ran down my spine. Why would someone be tailing me? The paranoia crept in, and I couldn't shake the idea that I was being watched. I tried to brush it off, convincing myself it was just a coincidence, but the constant presence of the motorhome contradicted that reassurance. Night fell, and I pulled into a dimly lit truck stop, hoping to lose my mysterious follower. As I parked, I anxiously scanned my surroundings. The motorhome pulled into the truck stop too, parking a distance away. Fear gnawed at me. I stayed inside my RV, peeking out the window. The driver of the motorhome stayed inside as well, hidden in the shadows. What were they doing? Why were they following me? My mind spiraled with questions, and the truck stop's buzzing fluorescent lights did nothing to ease my unease. Desperation set in. I needed answers. I mustered the courage to step out of my RV, heart pounding in my chest. As I approached the motorhome, the driver's door creaked open, revealing a silhouette in the dim light. "Hey, why are you following me?" I stammered, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and frustration. No response. The figure remained silent, and the darkness obscured their features. A wave of terror washed over me. What did they want? Why were they so intent on tailing me through the desolate stretches of Amarillo? I hurried back to my RV, locking the doors behind me. The motorhome sat in the distance, an ominous presence in the night. I considered driving away, but the fear of a pursuit held me back. Instead, I decided to wait it out, hoping they would lose interest. The minutes dragged on like hours, each passing moment ratcheting up the tension. I kept glancing at the motorhome, half expecting it to vanish, but it stayed put. My imagination ran wild with sinister scenarios, the fear of the unknown consuming me. As the night wore on, exhaustion mingled with my fear. I couldn't keep my eyes off the motorhome, its silent presence haunting me. I felt trapped, a lone traveler stalked through the Texas night. Eventually, the motorhome's engine roared to life, and it slowly pulled away. Relief washed over me, but a lingering unease remained. What was the purpose of their pursuit? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something sinister. I waited until the motorhome disappeared into the distance before cautiously starting my RV. The road stretched ahead, a dark ribbon disappearing into the vast Texan landscape. I drove, haunted by the memory of those silent hours in Amarillo, forever changed by the terror that lurked in the shadows. We decided on a family camping trip in Yosemite, hoping for nature's embrace. Our RV trundled through the winding roads, and the majestic beauty of the park greeted us. Little did we know, our retreat into the wilderness would become a nightmare. Our spot was nestled near a tranquil creek, the perfect backdrop for what we hoped would be a peaceful weekend. The sun dipped behind the towering pines as we set up camp, blissfully unaware of the impending darkness. As night fell, a distant crackle of flames echoed through the trees. Curiosity got the better of me, and I ventured into the shadows to investigate. There, on the edge of our campsite, I stumbled upon a scene I wasn't prepared for: two groups engaged in a fierce confrontation. On one side, a family much like ours, children, parents, faces etched with fear. On the other, a group of strangers with a menacing aura, their words laced with hostility. The air hung heavy with tension. In hushed tones, I learned of a territorial dispute. Both parties claimed this slice of Yosemite as their own, and we were caught in the crossfire. My heart sank. The picturesque surroundings now masked a danger that threatened to shatter our idyllic getaway. The standoff intensified. Words turned to threats, and the night air vibrated with hostility. Panic set in as our once serene camping spot became a battleground. Shadows danced around our RV, ominous and threatening. Desperation guided my actions. I ushered my family into the RV, a flimsy metal shell that suddenly felt like our only sanctuary. Through the thin walls, we could hear the heated exchanges, the threat of violence lingering in the air. Hours passed like a slow nightmare. The distant sounds of the confrontation melded with the chorus of night creatures, creating an eerie symphony. Tensions peaked, and I clutched a flashlight, ready to defend my family against an unseen threat. Then, as abruptly as it began, the confrontation subsided. Whispers of compromise echoed through the trees. Exhausted and terrified, we cautiously emerged from our refuge, finding a fragile peace had settled over the Yosemite night. The RV, our once safe haven, now felt tainted by the echoes of conflict. We left Yosemite with a haunting tale, a story of a family caught between rival forces in the heart of the wilderness. The majestic scenery had masked the darkness that lurked beneath, leaving us with an unsettling realization: even in the most serene places, danger could emerge, turning a dream vacation into a chilling reality.